Hello, hello. My name is Linda, also known as Tortajala around the internet. I love creative journaling and all things stationery. And today I wanted to take you through the process of filling up these reusable pens that can take fountain pen ink. I have shown this one before. I bought this Kakimorei 0.5 millimeter liner pen, and you just have to fill up the ink absorber with your choice of ink color, and basically you're making your own fine liner. For those of you who are familiar, like those Sakura pigment pens or like Stadler fine liners, they are like those inky pens that are really great for drawing and outlining things. So in this variation, you basically can make your own with any ink color that you want. And I should have paid more attention beforehand, but it was disappointing to find out that this Kakimori version, they are not reusable. They're not refillable. It's one-time use, which is a bit odd. I feel like that sort of goes against the whole point of refillable pens, but I guess it's just to, get a custom color. So then I was curious, and after doing some more internet sleuthing, I realized that these have been around for quite some time. You can buy them from the brand Kuretake, and they have like a whole pack on Amazon of like plastic pen blanks that you can fill up yourself that I think are also refillable. And I think that ultimately the difference would be like the tips, right? Like how long do they last, and do they draw or work well for whatever it is you're using them for? Of course, here in Europe where I am, I can't get access to the Kuretake brand ones. They're just not easily accessible. But I can find generic, totally non-branded versions on AliExpress. You can get a huge array of like different pen tips that you could fill up, even like giant marker ones. I feel like they're for like graffiti art and stuff. That seems really cool. But, I think that most people instead would have heard about Tom's Studio because they seem to be the up and coming like rising star that is showing up everywhere, which is the same kind of thing where you can have many types of drawing pen tips, but really you're just filling the ink yourself. But the good thing is that when you have a company that makes that product, it means that you will have a reliable source of like the replacement tips, the replacement absorbers, the whole ecosystem. So I thought, okay, first let me try what I have before jumping on the bandwagon of Tom's Studio because it does look very cool. I recently acquired these two new inks. They are the Roar and Cleaner sketch inks. I got the color Lily, which is like a muddy greenish kind of color. It's almost like dirty water. I sort of like it more than like straight up black. And then I got Jewel, which is like a purplish reddish color. And so I'm just going to swatch these for my own ink reference since they are new to me inks. But I definitely struggled a bit because they are very fast drying inks. And I suppose that makes sense because they are supposed to dry and then be light fast and waterproof because you can paint over them. So basically, like you can draw something and then like watercolor over your drawing. So I found it even hard to like spread the ink, like when you normally do an ink swatch with a couple drops of ink. And then when I was using my dip pen, there was way too much ink gathered like on the dip pen. So that's like a Kakimori brass nib. So it was just feathering all over the paper. By the way, these sheets of paper, they are cream colored Tomoe River paper, 52 GSM. But I noticed that it can feather when there's too much ink. The lines just go crazy. It seems to be there's like a point of absorption where it just can't take it. I'm assuming it's Sanzen. I don't really know the specifics. It's basically paper from notebooks that I bought on Etsy from Boz Notebooks. And sheening inks, I realized, don't work on this paper for some reason. Is it because it's cream colored? I don't know. It just absorbs the ink differently. And so some inks, like, they just won't sheen. So I mentioned previously, I had hesitated to fill up my Kakimori pen for all this time because I've had it for a while because it's one-time use. I wasn't sure like what color to pick to put into it. So of course, for the sake of stationary science, instead of making a proper decision, I just went and bought another pen. Not the Kakimorei one. I actually went ahead and got a Ferris wheel press dabbler gift set. I just sort of happened upon it and I thought that I would give it a try. Basically, it's the same thing where you have an empty pen that you can fill up with fountain pen ink. And they also have a brush pen version, the 0.5 millimeter, but I got the 0.8 millimeter just to have something different. So the Kakimori pen was like around €6, but the Ferris wheel press one was way more expensive, like 18, €19, even if it did come with like a little sample vial of ink. But I think it's more like the marketing and packaging and stuff. Um, but, both are just plastic made pens with the tip and the ink absorber. The difference is that the Ferris wheel press version does say that you can refill it, so it can be used more than one time. I'm assuming it could be used as many times as you can take it before like the tip, runs out or something like that. So I decided to use these two pens that I have and fill them up with the sketch inks that I just got because it would be great to draw with the sketch inks and then be able to watercolor over them without any smearing or smudging. So I'm just going to show you the process here of dipping the ink absorber in the ink bottle, and I'm letting it go to about 80% before taking it out of the ink bottle because the instructions say to do that. Like you don't wait till it's fully um, absorbed because I think maybe they don't want you to overfill ink. So this is the Kakimori version. I filled it up almost and then put it back in the pen, and I had to push really hard to get the top of the pen to close completely. It will make like a click sound. Then it's like totally sealed. And you do have to totally seal it because basically the piece of plastic, like it's pushing the ink thingy down so that it hits the part where it goes to, the pen tip. So you'll see like the ink color slowly, actually change the color of the pen tip as well. Then you know that it's, ready. Um, and so, pretty straightforward. So let's test it out. And you can see that it writes really well. This is 0.5 millimeter and it feels really good. I do like these pigment type liner pens. They're really nice. I used to use like the Sakura pigment pens a lot, but I feel like I would always like ruin the tips a lot because I'm pretty heavy handed. But yeah, this is really smooth, really nice. And so let's see how long this lasts. So this one is filled with the Lily Roller and Clear sketch ink. So now I'm going to fill the other one, which is the Ferris wheel press dabbler pen, that is 0.8 millimeter, and I'm going to fill that with the other color, the Roller and Klinger Jewel sketch ink. And I couldn't get the ink absorber out of this barrel. I think it was sort of like stuck. Um, I was trying to like shake it out and stuff, but it wouldn't come out, which is pretty bad. But I did end up using a syringe because I happen to have all these things on my desk to poke it and take it out. But I guess, it's one of those things where like in shipment and things like that, you don't know how much things have shifted, and so it can sort of get stuck. But once you get your ink absorber, like that little part out, then you just dip it into the ink just like the other one and fill it up. And you can see that the pen itself, the Ferris wheel press one, is thicker. It's like wider width or diameter pen. So I like the form of the pen better, like the Ferris wheel press one. It's like a marker. Um, so it's sort of nice in that way. I also feel like maybe the ink absorber is like bigger, so maybe it holds more ink. So I'm not sure about that, but only time will tell how good these pens are in sealing the ink. They are just like click cap, plastic pens. So I don't know how well they will seal over time, we will just, learn that after the fact. But I just stuck it in, and you'll see that the ink will populate like the tip of the marker. That means that the ink has, you know, gotten all the way down there. And let's test it out. And I noticed that this dabbler from Ferris Wheel Press, it does not seem to write as smooth as the Kakimori one. Granted, they don't have like the same type of tip, if that makes sense. Like this one looks much more, I don't know, sort of like a marker, but the Kakimori one definitely looks like those fine line pigment type. So I don't know if there's a name for like these types of tips, but I'm assuming, the tips are different. So I think that when it comes to the quality of these pens, besides like the pen barrel and how it feels in your hand, I think really the issue is the tips, that is the important part. And I guess it also depends on if you're planning to use it for actual like fine line work, or you're just doing random coloring and it doesn't matter that much. It's not that it doesn't work well, it just doesn't feel the same as the Kakimori one. I definitely like the Kakimori one more. But I'm happy I finally got these filled up and I can use them and see how I like not only the sketch inks but also these refillable pens, because I was definitely falling hard for the Tom Studio pens. Really, they're the same idea, right? But of course, the Tom Studio ones, I mean, they're meant to be refilled for life. You can just, replace the tips or the ink absorbers over time if they get, destroyed. Um, by the way, I was using these pens to do some test writing and some, test doodling lines and things there on my sample paper. And I'm going to use some water, although my water is a little bit dirty, but just to show you that it is waterproof. Like it dries very fast and then the ink will not smudge anymore. So you can watercolor over it, paint over it, do whatever. And also, I guess, good for people who want just waterproof ink in general. The only thing I will mention is that these sketch inks, they have a strong scent. Not after the fact in the markers, but when I opened the big bottles of ink, I definitely caught a whiff and I was like, whoa, that's strong. So I'm not sure if that might actually bother some people. But when I filled up the markers and after the fact, there's no more, scent, at least not to me. It was just in the opening of the bottles. And another thing I wanted to share, I seem to have pens coming out of the woodworks. I realized that I have a brush pen that you can actually fill with fountain pen ink. This is like a generic pen I picked up a long time ago from AliExpress. It has a brush tip, and inside, um, it has a converter that you can fill up with ink. So really the same idea. It's just that it's a brush tip. Right now it's filled with Pilot Iro Shizuku Yamabudo, and it's been there for a while. So you can see that a lot of it has evaporated, so it's like sheening madly from what's left. But I'm sure there are better quality like brands that do the same thing. Again, what I think makes the difference is the tip itself, because the brush of this brush pen is like a little wonky. I feel like I need to trim it or something. Um, Otherwise, if the mechanism itself works, I think that, you know, that will work for a lot of people. I think that's why I'm very interested in the Tom Studio pens, because I'm sure they're of better quality and made, to last a lifetime. And you can just change the tips. But again, makes sense for me to use what I have first before moving on to new things as usual, the struggle, right? Because there are always new products that are so cool. And, um, you know, we get sort of enticed. But yeah, I think ideally the difference is in the tips. You sort of have to pay attention to how the pen tip works, or the different types that are available, and to see which one actually would work for you and the quality of the tip itself. So let me know if you have used refillable pens of some fashion before. How do you find them? Do you recommend them? What about the Tom Studio version? Do you have the Ren or the Lumos? I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more stationery videos, and I hope you have a lovely day. Until next time, bye.